How many of you have seen and experienced firsthand the destruction that this pandemic has caused on our kids? From the mask wearing to the inability to communicate to the school breaks that have created a hiatus in their learning. It's impacted their ability to learn. It's impacted their brain development. It's impacting depression, anxiety, suicidal tendencies in young kids. The effects of this are long-lasting and devastating. Dr. Amanda Haynes Blonigan is a young chiropractor making a difference in her community. She's created a program along with her business partner that integrates chiropractic into the school system to allow these kids to have access to health care that expands their nervous system and increases their ability to adapt and reach their potential. I hope you enjoy this interview. I know I did. Thanks for listening. If you like the candid discussion and are seeking the truth behind the mainstream narrative, then please subscribe and share. Not only am I grateful, but those who seek the truth and wish to empower themselves and their family's health, freedoms, and future will also be grateful. So, hey everybody, I'm here with Dr. Amanda Blonigan today. She is an awesome chiropractor here in Wisconsin, up in the Chippewa Falls area, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so first of all, thanks for being here today.
Yes. Thanks for having me, Dr. Wade. I love listening to you. So it's an honor to be here today. And I'm sure all of your listeners get so much value from everything you share with them. So thank you.
Wow. That was very unsolicited, but thank you. I really don't like listening to me. It's very hard. Some people, the joke is, some people just like to hear themselves talk. Well, I don't. I don't like to hear me talk.
Wait, you have to be asked to talk. What? Yes. What is that called? What is the
It's
thing
called
that you
projectors wait for the
projectors?
invitation.
Yes.
So
I'm
what
a
are you
projector
doing
too.
over there while you're waiting for the invitation?
Yes.
I'm just telling about my learning learning, gaining, experimenting, running through processes. You are a projector too, which is awesome.
Yes, I definitely wait until the right time to speak.
Well, that's interesting because you are quite a bit younger than me, which is very complimentary. So let's talk about you and how long you've been in practice, and we'll come back to the projectors thing for people, which would be fun too. But go ahead. So how long you been doing this?
Yeah, so I've been a chiropractor for 4 years now, and I have a little bit different career than most chiropractors as I practice in the public school district. So I see kiddos and staff members, and that is my primary practice.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. So my business partner started it like 5 or 6 years ago now. And it started with the chiropractic care for the staff. And then as administration started getting adjusted, they were like, when can we offer this for the students? And then that just got the ball rolling. And since now we serve over 150 kids in the Chippewa Falls School District, and mainly kids with special needs or kids that are struggling with their school days. And we're finding that, they're able to focus better, their attendance is better. We're tracking their behaviors with the school district to see, how often they're going down to the principal's office, how often they're taking Tylenol, things like that. So it's exploded in the last 4 years, and I'm just blessed to be here and be a part of the journey.
Brilliant. I love it. I think it's so cool. So 150 kids you're seeing.
Yep.
And how many are how many total in the school system?
We have a big D1 district, so I don't even know. We have 700 staff members.
So you're probably talking 4,000 to 5,000 students.
Yeah.
So you're just literally tapping in to this.
Yeah. Yep.
So this opens up Go ahead. Go
6
ahead.
of the elementary schools and then the alternative high school right now, and then we just got asked if we can start doing the high school and the middle school as well.
Wow.
We need more
I,
chiropractors.
I was going to say that was my next question. Are you going to be able to handle all that real need for those students?
Yeah, I know I need my chiropractic friends to step up and start serving kiddos in the school district for sure. That's one of the things is actually the limiting factor at this point is my time and ability to pack up my stuff and move from school to school. My busiest day, I go to 4 schools, and that is a crammed day. But typically I go to 1 or 2 a day.
You just had a big day this week, didn't you?
Yeah, I saw 80 kids on Monday coming off the weekend.
So I was blessed with the opportunity to hang out with Amanda and her clan group of other chiropractors at a mastermind this last weekend. And not only was it rejuvenating, it was exhausting all at the same time. And so when I say that, I mean, we had fun, but we worked hard and Amanda worked hard. Sometimes it's hard to just listen, absorb, and suck it in. And you're an active participant, but also somewhat of a semi-assistant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're like helping out your best friend, Dr. Lona Cook, supporting her in the process and in the whole, obviously the team. So you're a role player there, which is awesome. My point for saying that is then you jump into practice on Monday and crank out 80 kids from how many different schools? Was it the 4?
That was 2 schools.
2 schools. So that means also you just add the moving your stuff, like you said, which is there's a packing up and a taking out and a packing up and taking down.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a learning curve for us, and as we start to see more chiropractors, I think we truly want to speed up, what has been a 5-year journey for us of figuring out the ropes of how to do things, how to maneuver all of that into maybe we can help them get there in 1 year versus a 5-year learning curve. COVID obviously threw a huge wrench into our research that we're doing because they kept closing school. So every time they closed school, all of that data was thrown out because we weren't doing the exams to like wrap up the data. So we teamed up with a research team out of Australia, and we finally have 2 full case series to them. And then the spring will be the 3rd one. So hopefully this summer they'll have a large case series published with, HRV and attendance and behavioral analysis of how the kids are responding in school, which is really cool.
That's awesome. So tell our listeners what HRV means.
Oh, so that is your heart rate variability. Yes. And we're tracking it to see basically how the system is adapting to stress. And you probably can go more into this as well. But we're taking it before they get adjusted. And then we're taking it at 6 weeks after they've been getting adjusted. And then we're taking it again at 12 weeks. So just to track how the student is responding to care.
That's brilliant. So where might we see, I'm going to come back to HRV in just a moment, but where might we see or a parent see the positive changes that you're actually measuring from an adjustment in an HRV and what that might translate to what a parent notices of that child at home? Maybe with, I'll give a hint to start to kind of anxiety and depression.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up because this is something that I have seen so much being in the schools through all of the COVID pandemic and seeing as much as we don't want to like focus in on that anymore, it's like the ripple effect of what that's doing to our kiddos now is just starting to really show. We have kids that are severely depressed now, and we have kids. I have a kindergartner that has actively tried to kill himself.
And just to be clear, these are kids that did not necessarily have that problem before. Is that correct?
Nothing was ever diagnosed before for a lot of these kids, yeah. And they have now lost 2 years of education. They have lost the ability to pick up on cues from their face because their face was covered for a year and a half. Just the social implications that they've faced in the last couple years So speaking to anxiety and depression, like as we work with the nervous system and we're able to calm it down, what we are noticing is you're just more comfortable in your body. And through that, you're able to adapt to situations more, and process what's happening in your environment. Therefore, I do think it's going to have a huge effect on the kids' anxiety and social interactions at school. And then, that translates into their home life as well.
That's powerful. That's extremely powerful.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster watching what the kids and the staff have had to go through in the last couple years. I feel like I've had like an inside bird's eye view, if you will, of like, as chiropractors, we're used to just hearing what we see in our like four walls. But I step out of the four walls and go into someone else's space and witness what they're seeing in their day to day. So to be able to see the extra stress that the teachers have, that trickles into the kids. You see the extra stress that the kids have of like, some kids, school is their safe place and they weren't able to go there.
Mm.
Or they don't have, internet at home. So how are they supposed to do virtual learning? And just to watch that unfold in a lot of these kids' lives has been, it's been hard to see for sure.
You share a story that I would love for you to repeat if you could. Just share that story about one of the little kids who moved to Wisconsin,
Mhm.
um, and you saw dramatic change. And this is more prevalent than many people realize, and is normalized through the medical industrial machine that we have. And
Mhm.
I want you to share the distinction between this child's behavior when you noticed what you noticed. Do you remember
Yeah.
that story?
Yeah. So I had a kindergartner and he was moved into our state through foster care for various reasons. And when he got here, he obviously didn't know a lot of people. Um, but I didn't see him ever smile. He was always just no emotion. Came in, laid down on the table, got up, go back to class, very few words. And one day, it was probably after seeing him for like, I don't know, maybe 6 to 9 months. And he came in and he was just smiling and he was a kid and he was alive. And I was like, whoa, of course, I'm like, chiropractic, this is it. Of course. So he goes back to his class and I have an assistant that goes into the rooms and she gets the kiddos and brings them down to wherever I'm adjusting. And, we're walking out and I was like, did you see his smile today? Like, that was amazing. And she was like, ugh, yeah, I heard his kindergarten teacher say that she said, actually, good luck with him today. His mom's on his way with his medication. And instantly, it like hit me in the heart because I just realized, like, gosh, we are setting these kids up to be addicts of any kind later because we are telling them that they cannot function in society unless they take this pill every single day. Like mom is going out of her way to come bring him his medication to tell him that he can function and that he can sit in the classroom. And I can only imagine what that does later down the road when all of a sudden you're faced with a difficult decision and oh, you can take this pill and just numb it and it'll feel better. And then you think back to, oh, well, in kindergarten they told me to do it every day, so it's okay. So it's a struggle because you hear this and you just want to like shake everyone and be like, no, 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 let him laugh, let him feel the expressions that he's supposed to feel. And he might have wiggles. He's also a 5-year-old kindergartner. They should have wiggles. They should be able, they should have a lot of energy. So I think,
Mm-hmm.
it's the reason that all of us chiropractors really need to just keep sharing more and more stories of, the intelligence in the body and how we are all perfect and able to heal ourselves and just be more comfortable with being who we are.
It's beautiful. It's heartbreaking. So just to make sure that was clear, the medication was forgotten that day. and therefore this child was expressing the childlike behavior, which is a beautiful thing. And it's heartbreaking to realize that they were going to go back and numb him down again. Just, okay,
Mhm.
we're going to mute this whole thing because this is the way that you're supposed to be. That's not only heartbreaking, it's like, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. So my heart goes out to you and everything you're doing with this. I mean, you've obviously had to be patient to just this ball rolling. Like you said, there's been a 5-year learning curve, and now you feel like it's starting to really roll. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it was like we were getting it, and then COVID hit, schools are closed. Now what do I do? And now I feel like we're back in a place where, all right, we need more chiropractors in more schools. Definitely.
So can we back up a bit and share what was it like when you first got in? How hard was it? What was it like to confront a school system that basically follows the medical mainstream viewpoint of how, care is, and, it's drugs, and chiropractic wasn't in the picture prior to that, was it? Other than an individual family's choice based on their health paradigm?
Right. Fortunately, we were in a district that was open to thinking outside the box, and that's how all of this really got started was with a superintendent that could see a bigger picture and was open to even having the conversation like you said. But truly, I think school districts want it more than we know. Um, our school had a mental health grant, and I think with all the mental health issues that we're having now, the opioid epidemics, all of these things, the school districts are struggling and they will take any support they can get.
Hmm.
So I think the hardest piece that makes what I do different is I don't see the parents. So I don't have a very good connection with the parents. Half the time they may or may not answer their phone. Um, so my biggest connection is really educating the staff and especially like the special education teachers. That's who I meet with regularly just to say like, hey, this is what we're doing. Like, remember your body is so intelligent and these symptoms are showing up just as warning signs to tell us to do things a little differently. And just remind them that chiropractic's that thing that can offer something different. Um, in general, I will say that the schools that have the most staff under care tend to have the most students, excuse me, the most students under care because they realize, like, oh, yeah, I feel good. Therefore, I bet a kid would feel good if they, had their system connected as well. So, again, just starting with meeting them where they're at, the conversation of stress, everyone understands that of like, yes, we are all stressed and where does stress store in your system, your nervous system. Um, so I'm just grateful. Yeah, they were open to the conversation. And then moving forward too, I think all school districts talk and if we can show like yes like at one point our testing scores were going up, if we can connect any sort of dot to okay they're offering more services and one of those being chiropractic,
Hmm.
then what does that do for the profession?
Cool. What does it do for our communities too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. What does it
exactly.
do for that community and that next generation that's supposed to figure things out and lead and carry on?
Right, what does it do for a generation of kids that grew up with chiropractic and it was normalized? I think that part is huge.
How does that fly? What would be the objective to something like this?
uh, Gosh, I don't know.
Well, I could state the obvious, but it doesn't have to be conspiratorial. But I mean, the point is, if if programming and training and indoctrinating a child's belief set that their body's inept or incapable and not intelligent,
Mhm.
then they will turn to drugs first, which is going to ensure a pharmaceutical lifestyle the
Yeah.
rest of their days. That's just me being devil's advocate, but also understanding this industrialized machine that we have that is just cranking out an disempowerment, and
Mhm.
you're doing the opposite.
Yeah, it's funny you brought that up. So, if you ask my business partner, like, why this got started or how this even got started, it was she was at a seminar and they had everyone close their eyes and say, like, imagine a world of kids that had to get checked for subluxation before their first day of kindergarten. And he had everyone raise their hand if they could see it. And there was like hardly anyone in the crowd that raised their hand. And he said, shame on all of you. You're part of the problem because big pharma doesn't have a problem thinking this big. And he said, big pharma, we have to get our vaccines before our first day of kindergarten. Why don't we have to go to the chiropractor? And that's the catalyst of like starting to think bigger and ending up in the school. So,
Wow, that's awesome. I love that. That's
yeah.
giant. So, how do we help other chiropractors get and people in their community? First of all, since there may be more non-chiropractors and non-doctors listening to this,
Yeah.
how do we get our patients and these people in their communities
Mhm.
to get their school figures and their superintendents to open up to something like this? How can they make a difference with this in their systems?
Yeah. I think the parents have to be the biggest advocates for their kids. And we're seeing that in all aspects of education right now. Parents are standing up and speaking out about what they want in their child's education. And I think recognizing the mind, body, spirit connection and other services that can facilitate the child's day is crucial. We live in a fast paced society. So I would say one of the greatest parts about me going to the school is saving those parents a trip after the school day. You hear it probably so many times in your office, like, oh, I got soccer practice for the kids. Like, I'll get there next week. And, we have to start putting ourselves first and our children first. And I think, showing up at the school board meetings and, hopefully we have a published paper that, parents can say, look, this is working in Wisconsin. And that we can start to infiltrate with the parents wanting it and the demand from the parents. And then the right people will show up.
Yeah, that's excellent. So if you were, are you going to help other chiropractors do this?
Yes, that is the vision.
All right. So how can I help you help other chiropractors do this?
Yeah. So right now we just started a nonprofit. It's called Well Adjusted Students. And if you go to our on-site chiropractic website, then there's a link for the nonprofit. Right now, we're just, starting up the nonprofit, but I think that'll be the avenue where we can, help other school districts and other chiropractors understand what we're doing. One of the board members on the nonprofit is our pupil service director at the school. So she brings in, the educational piece and the communication to the other school districts, and then myself and Dr. Lona, who have been in the field doing it. So
Brilliant. So what happens? So first of all, what is the name of the website that they can then find the nonprofit?
yeah, it is on-site chiropractic.com.
On dash site, SITE,
Yep.
chiropractic, spelled out, .com?
Yep.
Okay. On site. Beautiful. All right, cool. So that'll be in the show notes when we do this. And then, all right. So that's not your website for you and your business partner. This is separate.
That is the website for both.
Okay, got it. Okay, cool.
Yep.
When it comes to infrared sauna, the technology at Therasage360.com is on the forefront of delivering results safely and effectively. The technology in Therasage 360 is not only affordable and portable, it allows you to access the benefits of infrared technology on any budget. For a 15% discount on all products on Therasage360.com, use code FSDW360. You'll be glad you did. I can see this going multiple directions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me is this what you planned on doing when you graduated?
It's funny you ask. So I was very involved in school. So I felt like I had a lot of mentors and a couple different like job opportunities outside of school. And when I finally told some of them, like, "Oh, I'm accepting this. I'm going to go to Wisconsin to work in the schools." I had so many people tell me, like, "That's ludicrous. Like, no, you can't do that." Um, and it was kind of disheartening to hear that from mentors of like, "You can't do that." Um,
Right.
I did not know it would grow to this, but I do know that I am passionate and I like to get stuff done. So if I set my mind on something, we're going to make it work. And I have a passion to teach. So I do think that um, I would love to start teaching other chiropractors and other school districts and just, like you said, raise a healthier generation.
I think you'd be doing such a valuable piece to this whole planetary shift right now that we're having, this
Mm,
whole awakening period of, and then really focused on who is most important right now, which is the kids.
yeah, we got to
That's,
stand up and fight for them.
yeah, that's I just it's stressful. I can just feel the tension when I think about what they've been through the last 2 years. I can't even
Mhm.
imagine being that old, experiencing what they've experienced, and then trying to take it in like that's normal to wear a mask every day.
Yeah.
And, oh my gosh, where do we go with that, right? Because then it starts to get political. How did you get into chiropractic, first of all?
I actually was gonna be a physician assistant, and I remember shadowing a pediatrician because you had to do so many shadow hours, and she was like, "Yep, right now strep's going around," so everything she was doing was strep, and it was just every room was the exact same, and I was like, "Gosh, that seems repetitive." Um, so just happened to my roommate was a massage therapist and she worked at a chiropractic office. So I landed a marketing job at a chiropractic office. And from there, that's when I learned like, oh, you can adjust kids and I can still have this like pediatric vision that I had and landed in chiropractic school. So
That's cool.
I knew
So
I
where'd
wanted
you
to work with kids, and I didn't have chiropractic care growing up, and I didn't even know that was a thing. So once I learned about chiropractic care for kiddos, I was like, sold.
Yeah. I was fortunate enough to be adjusted as a kid. I had chronic ear infection, so my mom fortunately had a great physician that was old school and taught her holistic health and prevention is the first key, not drugs, and that was before the big push pharmaceutically that they did back in 1994 when they instead of, by the way, Amanda, when I had shared the story with a patient who's older than myself yesterday because the topic came up on our whiteboard, which you guys, you white us chiropractors are weird. We have whiteboards in our office and we have either motivational or educational or informative things that help people um, promote health within themselves and their family and whatever. So this one was on the top 3 reasons people go to like Walgreens or pharmacies to grab over-the-counter meds, right? Whether it's Costco or Walmart or CVS or Walgreens. And she said, "So tell me about the whiteboard." And I'm like talking, and I said, "Well, back in 1994, I said, do you remember before 1994 when they didn't have ads on TV to go ask your doctor for drugs?" She goes, "Yes, I do, but I wouldn't have said that's." And I'm like, "Yeah, it was 1994 when the pharmaceutical companies made a big push after a study that was done that found that of the top 10 reasons people go to alternative healthcare providers, they saw this list and they said, we have to change our marketing,
Mm.
and came back and then started promoting drugs on TV and commercials that said, go ask your doctor about this. Go ask your
Happy
doctor.
music as they say, "Oh, and you might die."
Exactly.
All these side effects that they have this happy music as they're saying, yada, yada, yada.
Right. So instead, I'm not here bashing medicine. I'm here literally just saying, look, folks, there has been an agenda going on, and it's literally the mainstream industrialized medical machine is what that is literally you enter in, and it's just this churning thing that does the same thing, either drugs or surgery, but no alternative, no outside help because it doesn't, serve the system or whatever. But colleagues of ours in the medical world, when we talk with them, I don't know how many times I hear this. I mean, many of them in my age class and just above have retired and done. They're done because they can't doctor. They can't be the doctor of the patient anymore. You know this. And they don't get to choose because the system tells them what to do and that's it, or they're out. And that's not healthcare, right?
Yeah.
And you're so hands-on with these kids, treating them individually. So let's go into the care. Like, what do some of the parents notice about their kids? I mean, that's something you've been able to see them and how you manage the care. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy questions people might have there, like how does that work? How do I get my kid to be adjusted by a chiropractor in the school? And what does that mean? How does that covered and whatever? So
Yeah. I would say one of the biggest ones that come from parents is bedwetting, which I'm sure you see in your office as well. And it's it's crazy. I never had anyone in my family that experienced bedwetting, so I never like grew up with this understanding of, what that does to a kid socially, mentally, physically. And as I've been in the schools and that's a constant check mark for kids that I see is they're all bedwetting.
mm,
And when I talk to the parents, as they start to notice gradual changes in that, they're able to say like, "Hey, my son was allowed or was able to go spend the night at a kid's house for the first time." And like, you don't think about the implications of bedwetting like that until, you hear something and you're like, "Wow, like yeah, like socially, what does that do to a child?" Or, coming to school smelling like urine. That is
mhm,
something that, unfortunately a lot of kids deal with. And then you get into like the mental, emotional impact of that. So a big one would be definitely bedwetting. We also see a lot of kids that have like emotional outbursts that they can't regulate their system. So they're like fine once and then, or fine for a second, and then they just break out. And I've heard a lot of parents say, like, "Oh, we don't have those as often." And now that you mentioned that, like, I don't know the last time they had one. So just the ability to regulate their system and think through their emotions. Um, One of my favorite things to do is, so I do manual adjustments, and one of the adjustments that I do is on their side, and they kind of have to like, give themselves a little hug. So I make sure that they say a positive affirmation as they get their side posture adjustment. That's what we call it. And I just say like, "Tell me something great," and they'll be like, "I'm awesome." And just that like reinforcement of like my body is smart. And you know a lot of times kids will come in complaining of something, and it's really, to be someone in their lives that can say, "Well, what do you think that's telling us?" Or like, "What can we do differently?" Or, "Your body's really intelligent, so that's really smart that it did that, and now we're going to let it heal." Just offering them a different thought process than, like you said, what's on the media and what they're hearing elsewhere of your body's wrong.
mhm.
That has been huge in influence, I would believe.
Yeah, that's great, especially when parents can. uh, the bedwetting issue in my office is is so impactful on that child's ability to feel like they actually now will fit in and can. I mean, the freedom to not be able to, the freedom to go and stay at someone's house. I mean, that is the stopper, like you said. Like
Mhm.
uh, he can't go to social events with his kids because it's a sleepover and they're embarrassed, or the
Yeah.
parent is,
Mhm.
and it goes both ways there. But chiropractic is powerful from that perspective too. I agree. I mean,
I have a question for you.
shoot.
So you had a big family. Did your mom take all of you to the chiropractor?
Yeah, in fact, so let's go back to the year, right? So, ooh, I almost fell for that question. No, I'm just kidding. Um, Here I'm talking about age. So back in 1987, so I'm 69, 70, right? So let's just say when I was 4, so in 1973, I was having chronic ear infections, right? And they started around 2-ish or whatever, and I'm number 6 of 7. So back in then, I think the chiropractic adjustment was like 12 or 15 bucks. And my family was blue collar. My father was a chef, executive chef. My mom worked at a law office, both parents working, and um, they made ends meet, right? And we ate well. We ate real food. We had great cooks in my house. My mom, anyways, both of them. Um, and so all of us kids learned how to cook as well. But yeah, we would all go to the chiropractor. I remember this though. My mom would say, "You're going to get adjusted, Wade." And I needed an attitude adjustment. And that's what she was really saying. And I'm like, "What do you think I said?" "No, I'm not. No." "Why?" "That's exactly why you need to go get an adjustment." And we
Yeah.
were 3 blocks from the chiropractor. So we could, at one point, we were old enough to ride our bikes and go get adjusted and come home.
Mhm.
And it was amazing because my first experience, I remember when I first met the chiropractor, I was 4 and I had some nasty ear infection and I didn't know I was going there, but it was probably at least a 15-minute drive to get there, or not, if not 20. But it was outside of our town on the highway. And so they had a cool off where you pull in, drive up the ramp. There was a drop off spot, and then someone would go park the car and you'd be in, right? I mean, where they could drop people off in emergent situations where they couldn't walk. And here I am getting, carried in with ear infections and just in pain and crying, whatever. And then he was not even a manual adjuster from that standpoint. It was low force toughness technique. And so he would just use the squeak box and use very specific alignment and Logan basic kind of work. And so there was never anything really forceful done. And I responded, and I had no idea the impact, right? But I knew I wanted to be a chiropractor and didn't know why. It was the weirdest thing. And then when I was 5, it was right around Halloween. So after candy, or right around candy time, it was a weird. I just look at this and go, interesting when that happened. I
Yep.
spent, I had, I wrestled with one of my buddies in the woods because that's what we used to do. We used to play till dark in the woods, right? And just run around. And he pushed me off a log. I landed funny. And like a couple days later, I was just falling asleep and couldn't wake up, kind of like wiped out. Turned out we didn't know this yet, but I had pneumonia. And so my kindergarten teacher, thank gosh, calls my parents and said he's not himself. It was nap time, and it was like, but I wasn't really waking up. So this is not the kid I knew, right? He was a little more hyper and expressive, and now he's nothing. He's just flat. So why I'm sharing this story with you is these weird episodes of how things affect us are synchronous in this whole thing. And I know you know that, but
Mhm.
there's a reminder in this that we're led if we're paying attention, right? And I get in the car, which was our family roadster, which was a panel-sided station wagon. Totally remember that. Sitting in the back seat, and my parents asked and said, "What happened? Are you okay?" And I said, "My shoulder hurts." And I was just exhausted. Like, my shoulder
Mhm.
hurts, and I would just like tip over and fall asleep sitting in the car seat. I'm just sitting in the car. And by the way, we didn't have a car seat, and we didn't wear seatbelts back then, by the way. And look
And
at,
you're
I'm
still
still alive.
alive?
Yeah, I'm still alive. And my head is fairly or normally shaped. Anyway, um, took me to the chiropractor because of my comment, my shoulder and right hurt. So I don't know what we do. Take him to the chiropractor. Adjusted me and said, take him to the hospital. I think he has pneumonia. And my mom said, "Hey, wait, can we just adjust him? Do you think it's that important?" He normally responds well after an adjustment. He goes, "No, I think he's pretty sick. Take him to the medical doctor," which in that case was about 8 blocks from the chiropractor's office. And sure enough, they diagnosed me with pneumonia, stuck me in an oxygen tent. Within a couple hours, I was already bouncing off the walls, and they couldn't figure out how I had responded so drastically, so quickly. And as I've told this story before, those weren't the times when you told your medical doctor that you got them adjusted first, right, by a
Mhm.
chiropractor. So I don't think my mom told him anything like that. But then I spent the night in the hospital over Halloween and got all these cool Halloween gifts from people that stopped by because I was in the hospital. And the weirdest thing was I was accelerated through my healing because of chiropractic. It was discovered by a chiropractor who understood what A, he had seen me before, but B, he understood how sick I actually was, right?
Mhm.
Did I get sick from a bug, or did I get sick because my body had trauma and opened me up to a weakness and therefore more vulnerability? When I look back, and you know this, as we understand health, we realize that the structure of the body is crucial in the body's ability to adapt, and that physical trauma, emotional, and chemical all have a role in that. These kids are under massive emotional stress. I didn't have that as a kid. I mean, would I have said, yeah, school is stressful, mom, because it's school and I never know what to expect, and the work is sometimes hard, and yes, my friends are there, but sometimes they're not my friends, right? So I mean, we
Mhm.
all had stress, but nothing like these kids do, in my opinion. Not a lick of the stress that they're exposed to. So what's interesting over time is seeing that we have all kinds of support for them, and you are just this bright shining light in your community. I'm serious, that actually offers people an option, and you're an easy bridge to now make. I mean, being in the school system to me is so powerful, and the fact that you're allowed to do it is, it's quite shocking actually, for
Yeah.
someone who's been
Thank
around a
you.
while.
I think we're all lights, and I thank you. That's very kind of you. I wanna, like, deflect it back to you and be like, "No, you are," but thank you.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. um I don't know if I answered your question about my parents, but I mean, yeah, they found a way,
Yeah,
and I needed attitude adjustments all the time.
and I see those. You see those of, like, there's a reason that we're feeling irritated or irritable, and
Yeah,
if we can just reset the nervous system and, allow you to feel more comfortable in your body, then you're probably gonna get that attitude adjustment too.
yeah. And where does it come back? I mean, it comes back to, I mean, quite frankly, it would make sense that for an economy that's driven around drugs and pharmaceuticals, that we do a job, I don't wanna say better, we do a job of empowering people to not have to go that route. Would you
Mhm.
agree?
Oh, yeah. I think I think so many times, when we just challenge them to think a little differently, whoever it is, whether it's a child or an adult, most of the time, that's the first time anyone's ever posed a question to them like that.
Mm,
To say, "You don't have to do it that way," or, "You have other options." And I think just like you said, they don't hear that because there's so much outside pushing them to do other things. So I think anytime any of us can just plant a little seed of like, "Hey, there are people doing things differently, and it's okay to start exploring some of that," or, see why your body is showing you these signs and symptoms and not labeling them as wrong or bad.
yeah, no kidding. Give me a cool story of another one of your favorite kids, and what is one of the biggest things you've seen? Just pick one of your favorite stories that you find is probably either fascinating or most impactful, either impacted you or whatever.
Oh gosh, there's so many. Okay, let's pick. Um, we had a boy and he was in first grade and he needed one-on-one attention. So like every class he went to, he had someone holding his hand, assisting him into classrooms, sitting with him all day long. Um, and as he started getting chiropractic care, he they slowly started pulling that away. And I had many staff members say, the only thing that he's doing differently right now is getting chiropractic care. And that is so cool. So now he's a fifth grader and is in the normal classroom and is no longer having an adult shadow him 24/7. So that has been a huge success. I don't know why that one just dropped in of a cool story to share of, again, like we were saying, giving them their power back to be in the normal classroom, to have the normal experience of school. And it's been, from first grade all the way to fifth grade, a slow journey of, okay, he can handle a little more. He can handle a little more. And I think the chiropractic had played a huge role in that one.
Okay, while you're thinking of a second one, I'm going to tell you exactly what I just heard and saw there. Now, this should be so obvious, people. This should be so freaking obvious. But I'm going to connect the dots for you, because anyone listening might say, well, yeah, but there's this generalization that kids can benefit from chiropractic. I want to be really, really specific. If you just have a child that's taking individual one-on-one time and that individual is paid hourly, take that into how many kids are in that classroom needing the same thing. Take that now into their first job as an adult. Take that now into their ability to provide an income for themselves and their family and generate and be productive to society. Now you're either going to handcuff that child and attach to where that child is just needing special needs. That's just quote unquote the way he is. And you accept that. And then you treat that medically, or you treat it drug wise, and you don't see the light in that child like Dr. Amanda does. She sees their potential to be able to open that up. She sees it and does not let go of it. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that was beautiful. Thank you.
As she's taking care of them, she knows what they're capable of. This is the power of chiropractic. Like the power of getting the fact that an adjustment isn't about, oh, can I just remove some pain for this kid today? Or his head's tilted, or he doesn't stand up straight in his posture. He's not adapting to the world when she sees he's brilliant. Something's not there. So she goes and addresses it. And this kid is becoming the boy, the man, the productor in his life, the productive human being, the independent human being he's supposed to be, potentially. People, that's huge. Times how many? How many of these kids need just to be freed up from their body being stuck and society then labeling them and then being treated with that label the rest of their days?
And seen as their label. And I think, I get caught up in talking about the children so much because that is my passion. But so much of this too is kind of like you said, your kindergartner teacher saw that there was something different, right? And if we can educate our communities to start seeing the child as a whole child and capable of healing, if we can have our teachers and our staff look at them as they're not broken, they have it all together. We're help guiding them and leading them in the right direction as they do learn to adapt. I think that is a whole nother layer of, success stories for these kids as all of these adults impact their lives so much.
One more story. Give me another example. Why this is important is the story helps them realize with their own experiences where it applies. Because if my mom didn't know to go to the chiropractor, guess what she'd have done? And I would have been medicated with antibiotics and all the other things, but I still wouldn't have had my nerve impulses released so I could then heal. The doctors still didn't know how I came in literally like exhausted and needing help to bouncing off the walls with just a little oxygen. They still didn't know why I was so bad and took such a quick jump.
Yeah.
They don't get it.
I think this last one, again, is going to remind all adults that are listening to listen to their children. Similar to your shoulder being hurt and your mom just listening to that, right? So I have a kid that he does not like school. He doesn't do well in school. He is very socially uncomfortable. And he, during COVID, started taking virtual classes. And then when they went back in person, he was so overwhelmed about coming back to school that he didn't even come. He stayed home and kept doing virtual, which we all know the detriments of society. We can't do that. We can't hide in our houses. So he's in fifth grade and they bribed him with chiropractic, which I think is so cool. And on Monday mornings, the taxi would go and pick him up. They have like a school taxi, and it would pick him up and bring him to school on Monday because he knew Dr. Amanda was there and he was going to get his adjustment. And that was the only day for a while. He only came on Mondays. He would stay the whole day after his adjustment, and then the taxi would take him back.
But
So I say this story.
he'd get adjusted and stay.
He would stay that day. Yeah, and I say this story because for so many parents that they might not even understand why their kid needs chiropractic, but if you just listen to your kid, like, this kid was literally saying, "I'll go to school if the chiropractor's there." Like, it had nothing to do with me. He knew that his body felt better when it was aligned and that he could handle the social impact of school. So he would come to school on Mondays, get adjusted, stay for the whole day. And then eventually, that stretches out to like, okay, I'll go Monday, Tuesday, I'll go Monday. And now, he's back at school. But for a while, it was only on Mondays because he knew he wanted chiropractic. And thank goodness his mom listened to him to say, okay, let's go Mondays.
Mm,
Because she easily could have just been like, oh, no, that's a hassle. We don't need to do that. But
right.
listening to your children, because they know how their body feels, and they might not know that chiropractic's the tool, and that's kind of where you can guide them to the chiropractor. But I find that so many kids are like, they're running in the room. Nadine, my assistant, she gets to go into the rooms and she'll tell me that, like, so protocol with COVID was they could only get one kid from the classroom at a time. It's better now. But
Mhm.
she would go into the room, and whatever kid she grabbed first, she she told me the story the one time of the other kid was sitting next to him, and he just looked like someone had punched him in the stomach. Like, how come he didn't get to go to the chiropractor? So then when she went back to pick him up, he just like lit up and he was so excited. And it just again shows you of these kids feel better under chiropractic, and they might not be able to like vocalize why or what it is, but if we can just listen to them on, hey, they feel better and they're processing life faster, and we don't know the implications of what's actually to come. We are just the catalyst, hopefully, for positive change.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. I love the way you put it too. It's such a small thing, and that's why I wanted to make sure that people can connect some of those dots. Like we have to bridge, because again, the training is in their programming and the propaganda and the fact that, oh, when this happens, you take this. I mean, just think, I hurt here or I'm feeling sad, I take this drug. You're teaching them something very different. And it's not just, I mean, we don't get that much time to untrain all the training they've had, right?
Yeah.
But when a child and a parent knows enough to say, well, one of the challenges I have, tell me if you've seen it. You've already told me what happens when a child gets adjusted, and I 100% agree with that. What fascinates me is when a parent answers, and you've seen this too, I'm sure, but a parent answers, oh, he won't like that, or she won't like that, or she's too afraid of that. And the child does what? Of course, whatever you say, and you're already telling them, stop talking, parent. You don't know. And first of all, I mean, that kid might be a little scared their first adjustment, but after that, they run and jump to the table because it's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I do think that's somewhat the beauty of seeing them at school is mom and dad influence a lot. So, mom and dad aren't there to influence how their first adjustment goes, and the kid, I feel, gets to fully express themselves. I've had it where definitely parents on the phone will be like, my kid's autistic. He doesn't like to be touched, or she doesn't like to be touched. There's no way, but we'll give it a try. And
Mm-hmm.
all it takes is that willingness to try because you know, this weekend, Dr. Peter talked a lot about just building rapport with kiddos. And that even the autistic child that doesn't want to be touched, they speak a language. You just have to learn to adapt and really build trust with them. And we talked a lot about that this past weekend too, of building trust with the child so that they know you're not going to hurt them and they are able to relax and receive the adjustment, which is beautiful.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of some of my autistic patients who I'm trying to think of back when I first had contact with them. Yeah, I mean, there's always that getting to know trust in the space. I would 100%. Dr. Peter Kevorkian was on, nailed that this weekend, and I love his experience. He's a veteran for sure, 40 years out. Um, and now I look at these autistic kids I'm taking care of, and they are fantastic getting
Mhm.
on the table and just they like the one yesterday just gets up and he looks like he's been, I mean, in a good way. The joke is he looks like he's been drugged from the point where he's just like, he's in bliss. He's just in bliss.
Yeah.
And and he's just like, oh man,
I have
thank
one boy that, like, puts my hand exactly where he wants adjusted. He'll, like, put it on his back. I'm like, "Okay, okay. I got it. You need some impulse there, some
Yep.
love."
Yeah, and they do some tests. I'll forget, like, because his support, his help is right there, right?
Mhm.
And his caregiver is right next to him. And she just kind of tell me how his day is going, and I'm adjusting him, right? We can do two things at once. And so I'm adjusting him. All of a sudden I'll just say, turn your head to the right. And he does it. And he's not obviously the best communicator, but we communicate as you'd stated. And again, I'm just fascinated because there's so much more going on than we often give them credit for. And I
Right.
mean kids in general, but let's just say even kids that are challenged. And
Mhm.
I'm just reminded and humbled at how beautiful that process is. And I'm just so clueless at times
Yeah.
on
When I
oftentimes what they're
first
really
got into
saying.
this, I feel like I it was really hard not to be sad for them. That's how I perceived it, of like, "Oh, this is so sad." And after many sessions with Lisa Thielen and kind of opening my eyes to, you know, they're on their own journey and it doesn't have to be sad. And if you can see the beauty in them and the light in them and learn how to communicate, and it might be different than how you and I communicate, but there's still communication there.
Mm.
And they're still here with their purpose and I'm still here with my purpose. And because of that, because of looking at them for their light and love, I feel we don't look at them as they're broken. You're expecting them to heal in whatever capacity that is, and you're giving them permission to express whatever they need to express. It's it's challenging, but it's been, now that I'm, on this journey, I feel like it makes the day to day so much easier because I'm not carrying around like, oh, sorry, 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 but more, no, this is beautiful. And, whatever it is that got circumstance that got them to that point, it was God's purpose and there's a plan in it. And I fully believe that they are here to teach us something in all of them. Yeah,
Man, those kids deserve you. They deserve you. That's awesome.
they deserve all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I am so honored and proud of you for what you're doing. That's
Thank
cool.
you, Dr.
I
Wade.
would love to help support you helping other chiropractors somehow. So, first of all, do you have any closing thoughts or words? Any last things you want to share?
Yeah. I would just say that we need to have a paradigm shift here of seeing that our bodies are intelligent and our symptoms are intelligent. And, you know, how do we start seeing the world as a beautiful place and seeing it for the light and love that it is? Um, Especially when, working with our kids, they are our biggest teachers and they are going to show us so much if we just take the time to listen. And I think, I'm blessed to be in the schools and to witness it and to help them hopefully make some transformations for themselves. And I just encourage all of you that are listening to go see Dr. Wade or your local chiropractor, and also just start to love your body, love whatever it's expressing, and really, you know, start to look at your world a little differently.
That's beautiful. Um, I have more listeners that are nowhere near me. We're in like 25 countries now, which is pretty
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah. So I would love for some of you in your countries, let's say it's Ukraine right now. God
Mm,
bless.
yes.
Send it to somebody in Lithuania, okay, whom you know. Ireland, send somebody you know near you in a state or a country near you. So anyway, the point is, we never know how far reaching what we may think, say, or do will impact the world. It's one step at a time. It's one spine at a time. Dr. Amanda Blonigan is a bright future in our profession. So I'm grateful for her. And we gave the website. I'll repeat it. It's on hyphen site, SITE, chiropractic.com, where any of you can reach out. If you're a chiropractor, you can reach out to find out how to get involved in the schools. If you're a parent looking for help in your community, check into these guys as well, and they'll help guide you in a direction. And I will also follow up with Dr. Amanda down the road here, because she's also a podcaster with her husband. And what's the name of that show?
The Power of Two. Yes. Dr. Wade actually came up with our name. He probably doesn't even remember.
Oh, goodness. No, I do remember where it would have been, but I don't remember actually having the idea. So that's cool.
Yeah. Thanks for the name. We used it.
Yeah. And, we may want to talk about projectors sometime around, and how once I just did an episode that talked about the disc after our weekend, and then looking at values, and we can do that too at some point if you want to just have fun with it. But here's my message back about, in a compliment for Dr. Amanda, is that you all got to hear how she's communicated, and you all got to feel her love and passion for kids and wanting to make a difference. To me, that's revering. And she's automatically a success because she cares more than her need to be comfortable, which is very, very powerful. The willingness to get uncomfortable when you are uncertain of the outcome. We learn, and we're constantly training about ourselves to how to become better communicators. And today, right now, it's hard, because to communicate love and not be judged for it because you said something wrong while expressing love, I mean, that's wrong, in my opinion. It makes it more challenging for human beings to express themselves. Well, we need more people like Dr. Amanda. We need more teachers like she is helping educating educators about health from within. I mean, that's huge. You're having a bigger impact right now than we even discussed. And that's what's really, really powerful. So if we can invite other docs and other families to experience that through their school system and find a way, an avenue in to get help, please do.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Great to chat with you today, Dr. Amanda. Thank you so much for your time. And for those of you who want to know a little bit more about how challenging it is to be a projector, we're happy to do that on some episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Dr. Amanda has a lot to say and a lot to share, and yet she has to wait to be asked. So guess what? I asked her.
And then I will. I'll say yes.
Yeah, and you can say no, but the cool thing is, like, you're a rock star. Let's go celebrate you. So you're a guide. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Amanda Blonigan, for being here today. You guys know where to find her information. That's on -site, SITE, chiropractic.com. And if you have any questions for me in this podcast, you know where to find us. Until next time, God bless, be well, ciao. Okay, my fellow health warriors, it's time to head over to iTunes, franklyspeakingdrwade.com. There, you can rate, review, and subscribe, as well as share, so more of our brothers and sisters can grow to realize their voice and their health freedom. Speaking up means you matter, so get on it. This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements or views expressed are not medical advice and are not meant to replace the advice of your medical doctor. This podcast, including Dr. Wade Anderson and his guests, disclaim responsibility for any adverse effects you may experience from the specific use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse and accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about the guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for such services or products. Individuals on this podcast may have direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical condition, consult your licensed physician.